Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're exploring a fascinating and, honestly, kind of terrifying story about how a simple, almost unbelievable technical flaw threatened an entire nation's digital infrastructure. We're looking at a scenario where the digital revolution, the very thing that connects our lives and our economies, was violently interrupted. And the crazy part? It wasn't by some sophisticated nation-state cyber army. It was a basic coding oversight that literally left a digital front door wide open. So we're going to look at the massive scale of modern vulnerabilities and how suddenly cybersecurity has become an absolute prerequisite for national sovereignty.
All right, let's just dive right into this with a staggering number, 19 million. That is the number of French citizens whose authoritative digital identities were stolen in the ANTS portal breach. Now, ANTS, which actually recently rebranded to France Titre, is the government body that issues passports, national ID cards, driver's licenses, the whole shebang. 19 million records. To put that into perspective, that is nearly a third of the entire French population just suddenly exposed out there on cybercriminal forums.
So, hearing that, you're probably picturing a highly coordinated, state-sponsored cyber warfare unit executing this massive attack, right? Well, here is the core mystery of this whole thing. Reports indicate the suspect they took into custody was just a 15-year-old. Yeah, 15. As cybersecurity intelligence noted, this was likely just a script kiddie. Honestly, possibly just a kid bored on school holidays who managed to bring a massive national government API to its knees. So, how exactly does a teenager outsmart a modernized national digital ID system?
That brings us to Section 1, the hotel with no locks. Let's look at the actual flaw.
To really understand this, we need to break down exactly how it happened. Because the truth is, the teenager didn't actually outsmart the system at all. The system essentially just handed the data over. Imagine a massive digital hotel. In this hotel, every single guest room has a number on the door and a little viewing slot at eye level. And the hotel's digital key system is designed so you can remotely request to see inside your own room. You send a request for, say, room 412, and the system shows you your valuables, your personal documents, basically everything left on the desk in room 412.
Now, here is the absolute fatal flaw. The system happily returns what you ask for, room 412. But the developers made a massive assumption. They assumed guests would only ever ask for their own room. Nobody actually built a check to verify if the person requesting the contents of room 412 was, actually the guest assigned to it. So a visitor figures this out. They ask for room 413, and boom, the system shows it to them. They ask for room 14, and there it is. In minutes, an automated script can request every single room number in sequence, emptying the entire hotel. No locks picked, no alarms triggered whatsoever.
In technical terms, this is known as BOLA, or an IDOR vulnerability, which stands for Insecure Direct Object Reference. And look, this isn't some complex, cutting-edge zero-day exploit. It's been an absolute basic OWASP top 10 flaw for over a decade. Literally every junior developer learns to avoid this. The attacker themselves even called the flaw really stupid. It allowed a simple script to request and download the contents of 19 million citizen records, simply because the system performed exactly as designed. It just never bothered to ask for authorization.
Which leads us to Section 2, a nation breached repeatedly, the systemic cyber crisis.
Because, zooming out a bit, the ANTS hack wasn't just an isolated incident. Between 2024 and 2025, more than 145 million records belonging to French citizens were exposed. Now, given that the population of France is roughly 68 million, this means that statistically speaking, every single resident has been a part of multiple massive data breaches. Just look at the staggering scale of this recent breach wave. We saw 43 million job seekers exposed at the government agency France Travail. Then, another 33 million citizens impacted when third-party health processors via Medis and Almeris were breached. You had major telecom giants like Free and Bouygues Telecom leaking banking details for over 17 million combined subscribers. Even the national bank accounts file got compromised. And how? By someone simply impersonating a civil servant.
Section 3. The crushing financial costs. The move to punitive enforcement.
You see, this level of systemic vulnerability isn't just a frustrating IT headache anymore. It's extracting a really severe financial toll from the French economy. The French privacy watchdog, the CNIL, is completely done with warnings. They are moving to punitive enforcement. For example, the telecom operator Free was hit with a record-breaking combined fine of 42 million euros. By contrast, France Travail was fined 5 million euros. Now, it's worth noting the statutory maximum fine for a public body is legally capped at $10 million, but still, the message here is crystal clear. Failing to secure data is becoming incredibly expensive.
And yet, despite all these fines, there is a massive disconnect happening. Independent estimates suggest France's public cybersecurity spending has historically sat at roughly 0.03% of its GDP, which is noticeably lower than peer European countries. Contrast that chronic underinvestment with today's reality. France now ranks 5th globally for ransomware targeting, and they've seen a 29% increase in incidents in early 2026 alone. Basically, centralizing massive amounts of data while underfunding the walls around it creates a target that is, unfortunately, truly worth attacking.
Moving to Section 4, the phishing storm arrives. Why context matters more than passwords.
This brings us to the human cost, and exactly why this specific type of stolen government data is an absolute goldmine for criminals. A super common reaction to breaches is, well, they didn't get my credit card or my password, so I'm fine. Okay, that reasoning, completely wrong today. The ANTS dataset contains authoritative, government-verified data. We're talking full legal names, dates of birth, places of birth, and postal addresses. You can change a password. You can cancel a credit card. But you absolutely cannot change your date or place of birth. This data is permanent.
As one security analyst pointed out so perfectly, a modern phishing operation does not need your password. It needs context. Hackers cross-reference these massive datasets to build a composite profile of you. They know exactly where you live, exactly when you renewed your passport, and your phone number. And they use this to launch highly personalized scams that look incredibly legitimate because they contain facts you'd think only the real agency would know. In this new reality, absolute skepticism has to become your default mode whenever you're checking your inbox.
Finally, Section 5, Defending French National Sovereignty, the National Cyber Strategy. So the French government has realized that cybersecurity is no longer just an IT problem, it is a literal national survival imperative. In response to this escalating threat, France has launched an ambitious 2026-2030 national cybersecurity strategy. It's a massive push, really signaling the state's realization that in our digitized society, the line between national sovereignty and complete dependence can be drawn with a single line of code.
As President Emmanuel Macron states right in the strategy's preface, "For the digital space is now a theater of power, a field of operations where decisive battles for the independence of our states, the security of our citizens, and the strength of our institutions are often fought silently." The government now views cyber attacks not as annoying technical glitches, but as uninhibited confrontations. These are hybrid strategies that directly threaten the nation's fundamental interests.
And the official documentation outlines a very clear roadmap for how France intends to transition from being a primary target into a major hub for global cybersecurity. It's a highly structured approach designed to achieve world-class cyber resilience by the end of the decade. The strategy itself is built on 5 main pillars. They plan to build the largest pool of cyber talent in Europe, starting from a young age. They're aiming to strengthen resilience across all sectors, halt threats using diplomatic and judicial levers, maintain total control over their own digital technologies like cryptography, and promote international stability. It is a massive shift towards treating cyber defense as a multi-sector sovereign mandate that involves literally everyone, from primary schools all the way up to private enterprises. But as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought a bit closer to home. We've seen how a missing API authorization check, just a simple unlocked digital door, exposed a third of a modernized European nation. So ask yourself, what undocumented, deeply buried vulnerabilities are sitting quietly in your own organization's own architecture right now, just waiting for someone to ask for room 412? Thank you so much for joining me today, and hey, stay secure out there.